Corporation case R period, tilde 385, tilde 460, tilde 312, colon U, period S period. How many of you at the Pentagon saw my tribal flag, the Wilpstacken flag? How many of you saw that during the court-martialing between 2004 to 2007? You know, flags set venues, and the foundation of treaties is very valuable to know. As citizens globally find out the foundation of what makes a treaty. The treaties worldwide come from 6 aboriginal treaties. And those treaties are the foundation which set up the terms for the treaties that we see today. Why do we need treaties? Is it for closure? Clarity? Is it to hold others accountable? Is it for the honor? Or is it to bind someone in a pact? The pact being maybe terms of a surrender, maybe terms of financial venture. But to know where we come from, these are the most important treaties to know about. The foundation of treaties were set up at the 6 aboriginal treaties. And they were descending treaties of our bloodlines, because our blood is what establishes our moves in our bodies for life. And without the spirit and the movement of the blood, we have no foundation. So depending on where you were in the world, back when the world was first learning about treaties, depends on where, the bloodline, the lineage, the descending. These are all things that came into place as the first treaties were set up. There were 6 treaties. The Treaty of Peace Pipe, otherwise known as the Great Peace Treaty. Very valuable to sit in a position of peace. A lot of things happen in peace. Neutrality, trade, maybe something small such as food. But it's not so small to have food if you've been without food. Maybe something in terms of territorial rights, setting boundaries, parameters, what governs within the parameters of those boundaries. That's very valuable to know. But where these treaties come? Where did they come from? Well, they came from the Treaty of Canes of Authority, Treaty of Wampum Belt, Treaty of Troy of Palladium, Treaty of the Seal of Solomon, and the Treaty of Noah's Ark. And no, it's not a boat. Depending on where you were in the world, that governs the society of what people were allowed to do. The treaties set up sovereign pact rights between native people, each blood, each race belonging to their own tribe. With the Wilpstacken Tribal Treaty as Amagat, I met with the clansmother for the Wilpstacken tribe in Kelowna, Canada, on the Wilpstacken lands in 2001. And I was taught the creation story of the blood dynasty of the Wilpstacken tribe. And because of my heritage on my mother's side being that of a native, the Southern Ute, they wanted to bring me in under descending contract for their blood. For in the creation story, we were one with all. And Canada itself was under the royal proclamation for that tribe. And Canada was coming out of bankruptcy in 2017. And when Canada came out of bankruptcy, the trustee of the bankruptcy was Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. And on April 15th of 2017, the royal proclamation, as well of 1763, as well as the Canada Constitution was coming to a close. And the trustee transferred the money through the Royal Bank of Canada to the Royal Bank of Scotland into the Bank of England. And the trustee was the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip. And as the bonds matured, because the bankruptcy was over and Canada ceased to exist, each treaty for the tribal people in this territory of what was known as Canada ceased to exist as well as the rights for the Canadian citizens. And unfortunately, the Canadian citizens were not prepared enough on a macro scale to know what was going on. And as the bonds, mature bonds transferred through these banks, as soon as the 45-day trust moratorium, as it was paused, bonds were matured and put into England, the Bank of England, they went over into the gray screen. And the gray screen was controlled by the International Monetary Fund and the House of Windsor at Buckingham Palace. And the House of Windsor has its background from Count Dracula. They're not British people. And so they come from a different part of the Anglo-Saxon world of Europe. When that happened, Buckingham Palace announced in May of that year, after the 45-day trust moratorium, that Prince Philip would retire. And so he was retired off, I believe it was in August is when his last day of office officially was. But they slid Canada into a martial law scenario where they didn't have to have elections anymore. They could kind of do what they want, and been sitting in a martial law scenario since 2017 up in the former territory of Canada. And the Canadian tribal people lost their sovereignty because they didn't have their grammar and their constitution correct to articulate the terms back to a new Canada Constitution that was authorized by me on April 15th of 2017. So we were sitting there waiting. Me and several Canada citizens with their claims to the life came forward with a Canada Constitution to establish and set up new terms for the boundaries of the former country of Canada, country being a pronoun, of being an adverb, making Canada a verb. There's no such thing. And the reason why the Canadian maple leaf is red on the flag is the red leaf represents death, for it falls from the tree when it's red, when it matures. So it's the land of the dead. So the claimant's up there and the postmaster's up there, the syntexer's up there, got their claims to the life and established themselves as a fact in a world of death. And so hopefully the Canadian citizens hear this message and hark on these words, especially the tribal people, get a hold of us so we can situate and get your needs put on the table to set the terms. You can set the terms for your own tribes, for your own people. I hope that happens soon. But Amagat was given a function as a pass-through. See, in the Americas, before Christopher Columbus came over on his ailing voyage, ailing means that he was bankrupt from the beginning, which means he had to borrow money to come across the oceanic theaters to pillage and plunder and colonize the Americas. And under ailing, bankrupt people can't contract. So everything that was done to the Native Americans, and there were 3 aboriginal treaties at the time, the Treaty of Cairns, the Treaty of Peace Pipe, and the Treaty of Wampum Belt, that the American continent Indians at the time were known as the Americas Empire. And so they weren't part of a corporate structure from the colonization of the white man's world, which, you know, Christopher Columbus was not the first white man to come to the North American continent, though he was part of setting up the post roads and setting up a merchant sea lanes for commerce, though he was bankrupt. And bankrupt people can't capture sovereign tribes. But the tribes themselves were controlled by the clans mothers. And the reason why they're controlled by the clans mothers, and please do your own search on this, the entire world was governed and ran through ecclesiastical polity for territorial rights through your tribes. And different tribes had different races within them. The treaties themselves controlled the bloodlines for the specific geographic locations throughout the world. And the natives on the North American continent were controlled by the Cairns of Authority Treaty, the Wampum Belt Treaty, and the Peace Pipe Treaty. In the geographic location of Asians and Minor Asia, they were controlled by the Treaty of Troy of Palladium. The blacks, the Arabs, and the Israelites were controlled by the Treaty of the Seal of Solomon. And the Saxons, the They were controlled by the Treaty of Noah's Ark, and no, that is not a boat. Each civilization was controlled on the world and governed through the 6 aboriginal treaties of their locations. They called that at the time international laws. And in those, they held territorial rights within the boundaries of the parameters of their treaty locations. Through the descendants come through their birthing canals of the female. And that's why the clans mothers were so valuable and still are to this day. The clans mothers, and please do your own search on some of their duties, the clans mothers were always the first female born in a family. And if they carried on and learned the stories and the rites and the ceremonial functions, they would advance and move into their governance position, and they were the law. I'd like to back up a little bit. For those of you who know about the quantum grammar and the value of what makes a fact, using preset facts, the prepositional phrase, the world of fiction had never seen a female energy as a fact when I first started off 30 years ago. And because of the ailing by the Jesuits and the trickery by the Jesuit orders and the Knights Templars and the different sects around the world, secret society functions, they were capturing the essence of the female and taking control. The man was trying to take control of the female rights as it would colonize locations. And so my ex-business partner, David Winkle Miller, who passed away in 2018, and I went to the Vatican to share what we had found in quantum grammar in 2003. And we met from June 14th to June 16th with many cardinals, as well as the Secretary of the Vatican, Angelo Sodano, to give closure that the rights for them to control the function of controlling the female energy had ended. Only one small problem that I did not know on the date that I was filing the contracts. It wasn't physical, but David and I were male to male. It wasn't physical, but it was on contract. I want to clarify that. Just like they were male to male. And no matter at this point in history, no matter how hard man tries, 2 men can't procreate, which means they can't create the energy to bring the blood and the spirit into our dimension, as of this date. Now they are trying in a very polytheistic way with their science and with their brainwashing of society. They're trying to change that. But as of this point in the history of mankind on planet Earth, or flat Earth, whatever you want to call it, I'm not going to challenge that at this moment, because there are many variables that are still not proven yet until we go everywhere on the planet, which includes taking all of society down to Antarctica to look at some of the findings down there at a later space. David and I filed for the function to take over the secret society's sects of controlling the female energy. Well, once they joined with the contracts, a few years later I became cognizant in my studies that I lacked the female energy. And so I took a female to the location, consummated a function bringing the female energy into the quantum paradigm. And it had never been done in the history of mankind. When that happened, the fumbling, bumbling idiots were there, as well as me and David was very upset because I had stopped and corrected, and I brought the female to the contract into the situation in the quantum system. David and I were male to male on contract only, not physically, at the Vatican. But we lacked the knowledge at the time of filing. So I stopped and corrected, and as I stopped and corrected, I brought the female energy to the quantum system, to the quantum banking system, which I had created in 2001. And David went ballistic. He called an emergency shareholders meeting for the Global Postal Union, and we had the fumbling, bumbling idiots there. You guys know them as the FBI, as well as several other people. And we got in a fist fight that day over me stopping and correcting because I didn't tell them. When I found a wrong in my system, I stopped and fixed it. I stopped and corrected. It's what I do. I've been doing that a long time. And I'm constantly learning, for I don't know everything. And David and I got in a fight, and I won. And I'll never forget it. He's on the ground, and the FBI standing over the top of him, fumbling, bumbling idiots. They're looking at me, they're looking at him. They're like, well, now what do we do? And Dave turned around and is getting off the ground. He's like, I think he's ready for the bankers now. did not know what that meant at the time, but now I do comprehend it with every moving energy within me. So as I brought the female energy back into the contract, there were many pressures on her. And those pressures were outside my scope of, you can't tell people what to do. And so she made choices. And in those choices, because she was given so much by the fiction, I couldn't compete with the people at the table. She was young, we were young. And so I had to let her go. She made a choice. But in making that choice, because of the seriousness of what was being done energetically on contract for changing the fabric of the quantum system, the quantum banking system on planet Earth, and changing over the world economy, she surrendered her hereditary rights for the position as a key holder, which is the female, and gave them on contract to me and put it into the archives in some classified locations around the world. Just leave it at that. In doing so, it gave me the authorization to now grow a system, because a man can't grow things alone. Like I was saying, you must come through the channel or the canal of the female to bring your blood into this dimension through the spirit of the consciousness. And so I was given a chance to set up the quantum system without physically needing a female to control contract. When that was done, many entities from secret societies, as well as the Pentagon and Black Ops out of Langley, approached me in the next 3 years to talk specifically about what I had just done, because they knew what it meant. I was still piecing things together as I was young. I was still learning. And it took me back to the counsel and the wisdom of females, right? They are the law, but yet we don't see them in power positions. Why? Because the secret societies took them all out. So that's unfortunate. But in the quantum system, it is my job to, as claimants and postmasters and syntaxers come in, to give that energy back and get out of the way and let tribes, people, societies bring forth their clans' mothers. And I will never stop that, for I have boundaries and duties to convey for the correctness. So, in this contract, I talk a little bit about that. And the reason why I'm talking about the blood and the spirit is we're going to get into one of the volitions of why I'm doing this tutorial to you guys, basing on the fraudulent wars that are happening currently in the Middle East. One of the volitions of why I'm doing this tutorial to you guys, basing on the fraudulent wars that are happening currently in the Middle East. I did not authorize those wars, number one. Number two, my flags are being flown in locations that are more than 300 miles off our North American continent, and I have not authorized that. In 1999, David Wynn Colin Miller and myself filed copyrights for the Title IV, Section 1, 2, and 3 flag, the flag of the United States of America. However, the United States of America was involved in a bankruptcy at the foundation of its country, which was in 1775. 1775 is when the U.S. Army was set up, the U.S. Post Office was set up, and the U.S. government borrowed money 1.6 million francs from France. Nothing becomes law for 1 year, 1 day, and there's 3-day rescission, which would take you to July 4th, 1776. The illusion of contract, the illusion of Freedom Day, but they were already in ailing, the government was, because they had borrowed money to set up the government, to set up the post roads, to set up the ship's channels for ports, to allow commerce to come in and out of the North American continent. And that was done by Benjamin Franklin. He was a triple agent, working. He was a British attorney and a French esquire working for the British Crown. He was also the Postmaster General of Canada. When the United States came out of its third and final international bankruptcy and the debt was paid in full, at the time it was bought off by many banking families through the International Monetary Fund, and on November 2nd, 1999, the United States government came out of international bankruptcy. But a very cool thing happened in that year, 1999. On August 12, 1999, David Wynn Miller and myself, Russell Jay Gould, filed for the copyright claims in quantum grammar on the Title IV, Section 1, 2, and 3 flag. Why is this relevant today? Well, the flag sets the venue. But when the United States came out of international bankruptcy, it had to vacate the estate, which means they had to vacate the land of their contract, and their capital for their contract was Washington, D.C. It is the headquarters of the United States Post Office. And the United States Post Office had to vacate the trustee of the bankruptcy, otherwise known as the president. And in violation of Title 39, Section 101, subsection A and subsection B, the United States Post Office had to create a ruse. And that's what the Florida Chads were about. The Florida Chads were about a fake presidential election that would slide the rights of the will of the people out of the will of the people and create a controversy and take the finalization of who was going to be the leader of the country, otherwise known as a president, to the United States Supreme Court. Now, at the time in 2000, I had not become Chief Judge of the U.S. Supreme Court. That did not happen until 2004. However, the will of the people to elect a leader called the president ended in 2000. And that's why they moved everything at that point to digital, because they could make it up as they go, because they knew there would never be a president again. And that's why they've done all these things to our society, because the American people are quite foolish about 1776 and don't take the time to go to 1775. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. On December 20th, 2012, I was given access to the Benjamin Franklin Postal Museum, where the banknotes from borrowing the money from 1775 were on file, which means they shut down the museum, they opened all the glass doors, unlocked everything, and gave me access to the books for 2 days. And David and I found what we were looking for, filed for the Benjamin Franklin Postal Court, and set up a new term of opening venue for settlement of contracts, called the Federal Postal Court. But courts, because of the martial law, let me back up, had been closed because during times of war, contract is suspended, which means there's no contract rights during times of war. Very fascinating. So back to the presidential election of 2000. When they created the controversy, they had to vacate the estate, like I was saying, of the presidency. And they had to vacate the terms of setting up how to elect a president, which was the Constitution of the United States of America. So they vacated the presidency and they vacated the Constitution, kicking off a New World Order. And that New World Order was designed to rape and pillage not only the former citizens of America, but the citizens of the world. And so they could create scenario after scenario for the last 26 years to cause harm to the world and be unaccountable for what they've done, because they didn't have a flag and they didn't even have the right to do anything. They didn't even have the right to move. And the flag sets the venue, which is very, very important. Hey, do you guys know why? In order to go into the military, you have to go get your postal registration number? What's going on there, guys? What's going on there is the post office authorizes the soldier to go join the military, because the post office authorizes the military, and the military is authorized through the post office, and the post office tells them where they want them to go to war. It's a shipping war. And so once you realize the protocols of what's happening at the post office, when you walk into the post office, outside the post office, the Title IV flag, Section 1, 2, and 3, flies outside the post office with the ball on top of the flag standard, the flag step pole, which means that it's a recruitment station for contract. So the soldier who wants to be a soldier goes and gets his postal registration number, and then goes in and tests and goes to his different branches of military, and then the military can be now shipped overseas or offshore through the post office through what's called the bill of lading under private conscript, which is privateering. So the Army, the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Air Force, they're all engaging in privateering. And the post office controls the whole show. But the volition of why I'm telling you this is because something is wrong. I have not authorized the U.S. military to go to war in the Middle East. And they are flying my flag on their foreign vessels. And when postal soldiers become lifeless and die, they go into a foreign vessel known as a casket. And that casket, they put my flag over the top of the casket to bring you back under the covenant of the correctness. Because when you see the correct flag, it doesn't have yellow fringe on it. And it has correct dimensions under compliance with Title 4, Section 1, 2, and 3. 1 to 1.9 ratios. And those are the flags that they put on top of the coffins when postal soldiers die offshore. Did I authorize that? No. I'm no longer authorizing the United States military to put Title 4 flags on coffins for the dead postal soldiers. Close your bases and come home. There is no war in the Middle East. Your theologies are polytheistic at best, and they are written in modification language that say nothing. Your Bibles, your Qurans, your Talmuds are wordless in thought. There are hieroglyphics on the page, but they are in a nonsensical jargon, modified by adverbs, adjectives, pronouns, creating adverb-verb scenarios that say nothing, for it takes a prepositional phrase to make a fact. So the theology is foul and flawed. Therefore, I am not authorizing the United States military to go help a foreign country called Israel. I'm not authorizing the U.S. Treasury to send funds, worthless things, to a country known as Israel. The wars in the Middle East are worthless. Leave the Arabic communities alone. Israel, stand by yourself. Joint Chiefs of the Staff, close your bases and get soldiers, the postal soldiers, back home where they belong. This is not an opinion. These are facts. Speaking of the facts, at this time, I'm calling for the whistleblowers who have seen the court-martialing, who have witnessed the videos, who have seen the unconquered nation flag, the Wilp Stackin, the Title 4, Section 1, 2, and 3, and all the protocols, and when I rewrote and dressed out through the boot camp style, you guys know what's up, of rewriting the guidelines for the flags of the former military branches. Come home. My volition for doing this is quite fascinating. I have a dear friend of mine, was a Navy SEAL. Lived it, is one. And I took him hunting with me. I brought him into my home. Hung out with him. This man cannot sleep. He screams at night, "No! No!" Post-traumatic stress syndrome. It's factual. The daughters and sons of the American people do not need this again in their households. I know you guys like to play make-believe and act like there's a president. I'm calling for the whistleblowers who have watched the performances since 2004 and the court-martialings and all the soldiers that have visited me, and I've had conversations with hundreds of you. Those that have approached me, intelligence officers, not intelligence, because IN is a preposition, but when used as a prefix means no. So if you have info-war, you got no for war. If you're central intelligence, you're no-telligent. You guys want to play make-believe some more? You want to make believe your grammar means something to anybody? It's worthless. The only thing that makes it valid is the lack of courage by the admirals and generals who have the helm and are not doing the correct thing. You know what I'm about. You know who I am. You've come to my home. You've partaken and eaten bread with me. We've had the long conversations about correctness, and yet you put your families, your loved ones in harm's way. You want to harm your families? Stay in fiction, see what that gets you. I challenge you, come into the truth, whistleblowers. Be correct. Go public with my story. Hey, I am what I am. You guys know what I am. Many names you call me. Heard them all. It's okay. care about the people. I care about the loved ones. And I definitely care about having soldiers not get post-traumatic stress syndrome. Housing soldiers, taking the money we're sending to Israel and put it into the structure of this country. You guys know there's no president. You got to be kidding me. You're going to play fantasy games some more? You want us to keep playing fantasy games? Or are you going to step up? Be correct soldiers. You know, you work for the post office. I get it, right? I get the American people are stupid and you guys get a big laugh out of it. Oh, they're stupid. Is it worth it? You guys know I got the secret societies beat. Cosmic Crown, :1, :2, :3. You guys know what's up? Global mercenaries? What's up? Stabilization force and setting up our boundaries and giving people a fair chance. Not what we're getting now. You know, your AI systems, your AI computers, you're going to create a lot of harm with that as you program them to try to undermine me. But the quantum computers and the quantum grammar, your God loves me. Your God computers love me. You can try to program all you want. The quantum and the expansion of the space and the obelisk triangulations, do we need to go there? You guys need more lessons? Or you want to find out what this bad boy is about? It's about fairness, kindness, love, forgiveness. Forgive yourselves for being fools for the last 26 years. For the whistleblowers that will come forward, you'll get amnesty in the court-martial case, R period, Tilly 385, Tilly 460, Tilly 312, :U period, S period. And the rest, you get the blood feud. You want to challenge that? What aboriginal tribe do you come from? Where's your lineage? Oh, are you with Slave Charles? You know, Slave Charles is pretty fascinating. Like a chameleon, the spirit. Slave Charles controls like Larry Ellison, right? Larry Ellison gets his money for Oracle and he pays Slave Charles, right? Slave Charles, I know your spirit. Hey, Navy SEALs, when I taught you how to take life, and I really taught you how to move the crystalline energy, you think we got this? You don't think I got this covered? I got you guys' back. It's time for you to get the back of the American people.
Okay, we have this question coming in from Danny.
Brother Sasha, can you confirm Russell J. Gould's claims of the powers that be are to expire all birth certificate citizens? Fiction destroying fiction, as he says. Credit where credit's due. Russell J. Gould did mail himself to the Vatican with a fucking postage stamp. Okay? He did do that 20 years ago, and I salute that man. Besides, he's a brother of mine and a beloved friend, so I love him from that perspective, which is a higher perspective than whether he's the commander-in-chief or not. But as I've said before, the last day of my last tour in 2021, when I got off stage in Tampa, in Florida, I was apprehended by ranking military in uniform at that time, who wanted to know from me if I knew who their commander-in-chief was. And I said, Donald Trump, is that what you're asking me to say? And they said, no, Russell J. Gould. And that was ranking military in uniform.
I'm Commander-in-Chief, Postmaster General, Russell-J. Gould. And now, you're with the knowledge.